Hello everyone, I'm Chris Martinson, CEO of Peak Prosperity, and I'm here with a really important message for you about the coronavirus, the Wuhan virus that's come through, the new coronavirus that has been sweeping the world. We've been on top of this right from the get-go. Unfortunately, if you've been reading the news, you have been either underinformed or in many cases misinformed about what this virus really is. It's a very serious thing. Now, before I go on, just so you know, I have my PhD from Duke University. It's from the Department of Pathology. My specialty was toxicology, so I've studied all of these things. No, I'm not a practicing doctor right now, but yes, I do understand how these things work. And unfortunately, again, the World Health Organization, the CDC, they're very cautious, sort of bureaucratic organizations. This is a fast-moving situation. So I'm here to cut through the noise and give you the information you really need. To get more updates, please come by Peak Prosperity, and you can get a lot of information there. We're updating the site constantly, hourly about this particular development right now. As well, we have a place for subscribers who want to go in a little deeper and get some good advice on what they can do about this. Now, let's rewind. This is a really fast-breaking development. We only first found out about this particular strain of this coronavirus. And let me break that word down for you. Corona, it means crown. And the reason they call it that is if you looked at one of these virus particles under an electron microscope, it kind of looks, it's all spiky, so it looks like it's wearing a crown. That's the coronavirus. And this one's particularly dangerous because it's only been a month since it's been on our radar screen. It was about mid-December when China first noticed this coronavirus, very quiet about it. It wasn't until the 31st of December before an official notification went out to the World Health Organization. And gosh, already we're seeing 40 million people now quarantined in their cities in China. It's a really serious thing. Now, why? The first thing you need to understand is this is kind of reads like a spy thriller, novel that you might read about a pandemic. Why? Because the things that really confer that dangerousness to a new virus is, one, the human species has not seen it before, so we haven't had a chance to deal with it. So we don't have this thing called herd immunity. None of us have antibodies to this coronavirus. So when it comes out into a population with no natural immunity, it tends to sweep through very vigorously. The second thing is this is a cross-species jump. They've already done the DNA sequencing on it and discovered this is a bat virus that went through a snake, picks up some snake virus bits, and now it's crossed into humans. That makes it especially dangerous for a pandemic. Then you need two other factors in there. One is called the transmissivity. It's a R0 or an R0. It's asking the question, how easy does this jump between people? So if I had it and I walked into a room of 10 people, how many people on average would get that? If you have an R0 greater than 1, meaning I have a chance on average of walking into a room full of 10 and one other person catches it, that's enough to sustain transmission. An R0 of less than 1, this thing will die out on its own over time. But anything over 1 is a concern. It's thought that this has an R0 of somewhere between 1.5 and 2.4. So this really has a chance to spread and spread pretty strongly. The second big thing we need to know is that this is pretty lethal. The people who've described what is happening, a healthy 23-year-old read this full account about what his experience was, just got laid low. Like imagine the worst flu you've had times 2, really touch and go. With strong medical support, this person pulled through. But we're finding that people who are a little bit older and the very young, of course, as usual, are prone to really having a catastrophic outcome. This thing has a case fatality rate of around 3%, but we won't know how high it is until all is said and done. I think it looks like early data, it's coming in a little higher than 3%. If it came in at 3% and it came to America and it was as transmissive as the Spanish flu was in 1919, that would translate into about 16 million people becoming critically ill and another 2 to 3 million people succumbing to this. It's a very dangerous virus, which is why we get to the thing that really annoys me about this is that it has a really long latency period, meaning if you infected me, I would go about 5 days before I would begin to express any symptoms. It would be another maybe 4 days before those symptoms were bad enough for me to go, geez, maybe I should go see a doctor. So there's somewhere between a 9 and a 14-day window before somebody who gets this virus would actually present to the medical establishment. During this whole time, they are infective and infecting other people around them. So here's why I get annoyed by this. The doctors know this, the World Health Organization knows this, certainly all the people at the CDC know this, all of the health specialists in the UK know this, in Europe and Finland, anywhere you want, Asia, Singapore, Japan, they all know this. Now, what would you do if you knew that there were tens of thousands of people infected with this thing who were living in a place and you were going to have them maybe traveling, getting on little metal tubes, getting in airplanes and traveling to your country? Well, knowing that this has an incubation period where you can't detect any symptoms, I think the responsible thing would be to say no travel. But that's too hard because that would cost a lot of money, so we're not going to do that. But then maybe there would at least be a quarantine period. All you've been reading about is that the security precautions are, what they're doing is taking the temperatures of people as they deplane from ground zero, where this virus is known to be endemic and epidemic right now. They're taking the temperature readings by pointing a little something at people's foreheads, and if you don't have a fever, come on in. Completely ineffective. And they know that, but that's not what's being said. They are telling you that you are being protected by screening measures at the airport. So you need to understand that. And the other thing is that they've talked about the World Health Organization on the 23rd of January, that's yesterday at the time of this filming, declined to declare this a public health emergency. They said it doesn't quite fit all the criteria yet, but oh my gosh, they must have got lawyers on there instead of doctors, because what they said was to classify this as a public health emergency, they need to have somebody outside of China who's got the disease spreading it. And all they had for sure was people with the disease who'd come from China, and they didn't have any technical examples of cross-contamination once they were outside. So they said, technically, it's not a pandemic. So I have to read to you where we are on the WHO, World Health Organization, pandemic checklist. Dan, bring this up, because look at this. Phase 1, if you're in phase 1, no animal influenza virus circulating among animals has been reported to cause infection in humans. Cross that one out. Phase 2, an animal influenza virus circulating in domesticated or wild animals is known to have caused infection in humans and is therefore considered a specific potential pandemic threat. Oops, cross that one out. We're way past that one. How about phase 3? Have we made it to phase 3? That's where an animal or human-animal influenza reassortant virus, and that's what we have to remember, bat, snake, human, has caused sporadic cases or small clusters of disease in people, but has not resulted in human-to-human transmission sufficient to sustain community-level outbreaks. Cross that one off, because we're way past phase 3. We're here at phase 4 on this pandemic checklist, where human-to-human transmission of an animal or human-animal influenza reassortant virus able to sustain community-level outbreaks has been verified. That's where we are. We have verification now of human-to-human jumping, not just on what's called first generation. That's where I got it from the snake. I gave it to you, that's one generation jump, but then you gave it to somebody else, that's a second generation. They give it to somebody else, that's a third generation. We now have hard evidence of fourth generation jumps. That means we have met all the criteria for this to be a full-blown pandemic. And to get to phase 5, this is where extreme measures get put in place, including things like bans on travel, complete shutdowns of locations to traveling in and out, something like the China quarantines, but sometimes at the nation-state level. Phase 5 would be the same identified virus has caused sustained community-level outbreaks in 2 or more countries in a WHO region. That may have already happened by the time you started to watch this, because, as I told you, we had tens of thousands of people leave the affected areas in China and walk through airports completely unscanned for 20 days, and only recently they started scanning them, but as we mentioned, that's ineffective when you have an incubation period of 5 days like we've got. And during that incubation period, as a reminder, no fever, no aches, no chills, no anything that feels fluish. You feel fine, but you're carrying that particular virus particle. So this is something old people, immunocompromised, young people, you need to be aware of this. Please study this, understand what your measures can be that you can take around this. Come by Peak Prosperity. We've got a great report there for people who want to go deeper and understand what you can do to protect yourself. Some of it's pretty simple. Wash your hands, get not just a surgical mask, but N95 mask, things like that. But you really need to start taking this seriously, and we're going to be on top of this. So again, I'm Chris Martenson. Thank you for listening, and please come by Peak Prosperity and check out the material we got for you. It's really important. Hello, everyone. Chris Martenson, CEO of Peak Prosperity here with another coronavirus update for you. Today is January 25th. It's Saturday. It's probably about 5 o'clock in the afternoon here. All day long, I've been looking for new information. And here's what we've got. Let me tell you this by the numbers. So this is coming out of China now. There are 1,370 cases that they're reporting, 41 deaths, 38 cured, they're saying, 28 cases confirmed in 10 countries. Get to that in a second. And now 30 cities or provinces have launched the highest emergency response level. That's level 1. That means no travel in or out of 30 major areas, including, let's turn to this right now. Dan, bring this up. Look at this. This is from a Richard Kai saying, Beijing just declared a first-level emergency response. All interstate transportation services going in and out of Beijing are suspended beginning...
May God have mercy on us.
Tomorrow. So I can only imagine the rush that's going on of people trying to get in or out. But they're closing the city off for one of two reasons. One, the virus hasn't made it there yet and they're trying to stop it, or it's already there and now they can't have it spread any further. I think it's the former. We don't know that yet at this point in time. So right now, these figures don't stand up for me because that 1,371 cases, that's the same number I had last night. Here it is, 12 hours later, same number of cases. It's frozen. And China's going out and stopping all transport in and out of Beijing. I mean, it's whatever your local biggest city is. If you're in the United States, whether it's Los Angeles or New York or it's London because you're in the UK, think about your largest city, multiply it by 2, and then think about blocking all transport in or out of that city. Now, how long do you think that can be sustained? A day, 2 days, 3 days? Look, these viruses take time to burn through. I am encouraged by the fact that we're not seeing a reported explosion in the number of cases. That's very positive. We've seen a little bit of transmission human to human outside of China, but I haven't seen the cases show up like I thought. So getting back to it, we see in Thailand, 5 confirmed cases. Australia has 4. Japan, 3. Singapore, 3. France, 3. Malaysia, 3. Not bad. So that's actually really hopeful at this point in time. Maybe this thing isn't spreading quite as wildly as we thought. On the other side, we do have some emerging data that says, what is the R naught of this? Again, that's the transmissivity of this. How easily does it spread? How virus-like is it? And when we look at that data, it's a little bit of kerfuffle about, is it 3.8, is it 2.5? A lot of feathers got ruffled. It doesn't really matter whether it's 2.5 or 3.8. This is a very infectious disease, more than capable of creating a pandemic. The way you stop that, of course, is with complete cessation of people interacting with each other. Really gripping video that came out today of Hubei in China, somebody driving right up a big city street, and it's just deserted. It looks like one of those ghost town movie sets that Hollywood would show after, the Day of the Walking Dead's about to start. Just nobody seen. That's how you stop something like this. People go dark, they go and they hide out. The concern I have is that lasts as long as the food or water in those homes or apartments. So we'll see how long this can last. But for now, encouraging that the numbers haven't been vaulting up. But I'm suspicious about that because of the fact that Beijing just went under a level 1 emergency on this whole thing. So that's where we're at right now. We're still continuing to follow this. If you come by Peak Prosperity, we got another report up today in there from our own member, Sand Puppy. Big shout out to you, big guy. He put up a beautiful list he's an ER professional, about what he would do and what he thinks everybody should do should the pandemic come to where you are, steps you should take, and you should really be prepared to self-treat as much as possible at home. Don't go to the hospital was his advice unless you really, really have to. That's something I think people in China are already discovering. As well, you got to prepare for this. Food, water, the basics. We have a nice list there of things you should consider, and it's just basic precautions. Listen, we all hope this is going to blow over. Probably will. We don't know that for sure yet. So buy the food, buy the water, buy the provisions, and then later we all laugh about it and you can donate them, but you're going to feel much better having those in your house. So that would be my advice right now. We're still tracking this. It's changing. I reserve the right, of course, to change my opinion about everything if I get new data tonight, because that's our commitment. We change when the data changes. So we're following it as best we can. Come by Peak Prosperity to follow it. Until next time, that's my update. Hello, everyone. Chris Martinson of Peak Prosperity here with another coronavirus update for you. It's Sunday, January 26, 2020, about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A lot of data came in overnight, so let's get right to it. I'm going to start with by the numbers. So the data that I had this morning when I got up, and it was here through this morning, was that China had confirmed cases of 2,070 infections, 37 of those overseas. I'm going to get to that in a minute. I think that's a real low ball. There were 56 deaths recorded. I'm sure that's higher by now. Cured was 49 as of these. Human-to-human transmission confirmed. Of course, we went through that yesterday. And the health experts are saying that they think this really has the potential to migrate. Yeah, obviously. So we've seen that with the shutting down of Beijing for traffic in and out. It's level 1 emergency. In fact, safe to say almost all of China is now in lockdown, at least from a number standpoint. It's really astonishing how quickly this is spread. So I said I was going to get back to those numbers in a minute. Now, here's the thing. If there are only 2,000 cases, and I'm using the word only not to minimize it, but in the sense that with 2,000 cases and a 10% case complication rate, you're looking at about 200 people are going to be critically ill looking for serious bedding in maybe an ICU bed in a hospital. So I went over and I looked at Wuhan as a city district. And by the way, not all 2,000 cases are in Wuhan, but let's pretend they were. Let's pretend Wuhan had to come up with 200 beds. This is a city of 11 million people. The hospitals I located, there are about 49,000 beds, give or take, available in Wuhan. Does it feel right to you that 200 people in needing ICU beds, would that be enough to swamp the hospitals like everything we've seen before the flood of data started to dry up and no longer be coming out of Wuhan? I'm distrustful of that as well. But what were we seeing a couple days ago? Hallways swamped with patients. We saw the dead and very sick lying in the hallways. We saw hundreds of people in the lobbies, all with their face masks, desperately trying to get in for treatment. That doesn't feel like 2,000 cases and a couple of hundred serious complications to me. What takes my BS meter and puts it into orange, at least, so it feels better? I'm thinking 10 times that number. So are we talking about 20,000 cases rather than 2,000? Or are we talking about a case serious fatality and incident rate that's a lot higher than we've been told? One of those two things has to be true, or I don't believe these numbers, because 2,000, this just doesn't fit right. Okay, moving on. Let's get to some good news in this whole thing. First, Chinese medical experts are saying right now that there is no evidence of mutations. So that's good. Why? Because when a virus mutates, it's already deadly enough. There's a chance it could mutate into something more harmful. Either it spreads more easily or it's got a higher incidence of case fatality or serious complications. That's what happened with the Spanish flu. There was a first wave that went around the world. It was bad, but not as bad as the second wave, which had a mutation in it that made it a lot more lethal. So good sign, no mutations there. However, we do have this idea, Dan, show this, that the coronavirus now spreads before symptoms show. This is confirmed now. We talked about it a couple days ago as probably true. In fact, it was true then. But now we have the official confirmation of it. So it spreads even before it's symptomatic. And this is a big deal. And now they don't even know. They started to say, is it 5 days asymptomatic? Could it be 10? There's a lot of uncertainty. This data is going to change. But for sure, this thing is spreadable without symptoms. Now, that sets it apart from a lot of people said, Chris, how does this compare to SARS? That was the big scare that came back earlier in the 2000s. Remember, SARS, one of the things that's different about it is, first, it didn't spread easily between people with the exception of super spreaders. So there were a few people that really spread the SARS around. So that's one difference. But But the second thing was SARS really wasn't transmissible until symptoms started to show. That makes it so much more easy to contain, right? And so let's look at this right now. Moving on, CNN has an opinion piece up which says the World Health Organization should sound the alarm on the Wuhan coronavirus. That came out this morning. Should, no, they should have. Past tense on that particular verbiage. This is a very late opinion. Of course, the World Health Organization, the cat's already out of the bag on this whole thing. They've really been derelict. And you know, my critique, is that they were pretending they were the World Trade Organization, not the Health Organization, because they were like, well, we're concerned about the impact on global trade if we declare a public health emergency. Not their job. They're supposed to be about public health. So, yeah, big ding on that. We're seeing now, in the absence of a coordinated global response, individual places are starting to take charge of this. So Japan, ruling party came out and said full-scale border control measures are needed to prevent spread of the Wuhan coronavirus. So the legislature in Japan is saying, let's close our borders. We're seeing the same thing coming out of Hong Kong now, where the doctors in Hong Kong have said that they will go on strike on February 3rd if the border isn't closed. And Hong Kong is a really densely packed place. If coronavirus gets there, and let's hope it hasn't already, and if it really spreads through the population, and they have to go through a Wuhan-style closure of the city, this could be really devastating for Hong Kong. And as a nexus of world trade and finance, who knows, very, very large impacts if that happens. But already, this is something you need to be aware of. Hong Kong has declared an emergency and has a 2-week school closure. So for everybody who's listening to this, if you're in a place where the coronavirus comes or has already come, you have the chance of having your kids be sent home because the schools are all closed, which makes sense. It's a good public measure. You know how kids spread germs with each other, right? I'm a parent. Everybody who's been a parent knows those kids, their saliva is already half virus particles by weight in the first place. So it makes a lot of sense to close the schools down. But think of the impact on your life around that if that happens, particularly for people who are already living on the edge. Paycheck to paycheck, this could be a really big impact on their life. So now, Dan, I want you to bring this up. Look at this chart. This is showing, so far, of the very few reported cases of deaths, what the age spread is. And all the legends and everything are in Chinese, but you can make sense of it, right? These are broken down into 10-year age bands, and it looks like 60 to 70, 70 to 80, 80 to 90, those bands get really walloped by this thing. That's where most of the deaths that have occurred so far, and that's a big concern to a country like China, which has an enormous proportion of people over the age of 60. Japan, ditto. Same for the United States, Europe as well. So there are a lot of countries for whom this illness could hit really hard. But I want to compare that chart now to this particular statement that just came out. This was from the Chinese minister at the head of the National Health Council. This is Ma Xiaohui, said on Sunday that the ability of new coronavirus to spread seems to be increasing. This is, again, we don't have solid data around this, but it was already transmissive, seems to be increasing. So that's a statement that says either it's already mutated or something else is happening, or now the official data is starting to catch up with reality. And that's creating the appearance of an increase. So let's hope it's that it's not actually increasing. But this was the part that really concerned me. He also went on to say that it also seems that, quote, the danger that the virus poses to people of different age categories is shifting. So everything I just showed you in that chart, which shows you that the 60 and up crowd is really most vulnerable to this particular virus, this statement, I'm going to have to follow this up in the next few days because this one concerns me. If it's shifting, the only way it can shift is down because it's already at the top end of the scale. So that needs to be decoded. We need to figure that one out. Now, here's the thing. In the Wall Street Journal, this was on Friday, so this issue of the Wall Street Journal, below the fold, we have a nice little article here that reads, Response to Virus Stirs Chinese Anger. And in here, they make a couple of points. First, absolutely, the Chinese authorities in Wuhan, they messed up big time. They held a 40,000-person buffet last Sunday when they knew all about, like, this disease is already, like, swamping their hospitals. 40,000 people in a buffet eating together, hopefully not coughing on the buffet table. You know how this goes, right? So the people were really mad. Like, why did you continue to hold that? That was a stupid decision. No question, full stop about that. And the Wall Street Journal goes on to opine a little bit here, and they say, it is also the Chinese government is also facing questions about the pace at which the outbreak was confronted. Well, I got to show you something here now. Dan, pull this up. This is from Flight Tracker. What we're looking at here is the flight schedule of airlines leaving Wuhan. Not Beijing, but Wuhan itself. These are just the flights out on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you can see here there's flights leaving on Sunday going all over Asia. One there going to a Moscow airport. There are still flights leaving. And in the United States, in Australia, in Europe, what are they doing? Well, people get off of these planes and these flights straight from ground zero, and they take a little temperature reading. And if you don't have the fever, you come in. But remember where we started. Everybody knows now that this virus transfers and transmits in an asymptomatic state. That means no fever, no chills, no febrile state, no aches and pains, nothing to even indicate to you, the carrier, that you're infected. So if you want to point fingers, Wall Street Journal, at the Chinese government and say they were ineffective, no less ineffective than all the governments that are allowing people to deplane from hotspots while only taking a temperature reading off of them. That is irresponsible in this story. Meanwhile, let's take a quick peek. Dan, pull this up. Look at this. This is a set of measures that have happened around a nearby town to Wuhan, Hubei. This town is not just closed off. We showed a picture from that yesterday. It looks like a ghost town. But look what they're doing. They're closing all these roads off with dump trucks of rocks, sand and dirt, piles of logs. I mean, this is really makeshift. They're doing anything they can to just stop people from going in or out of this particular city. Again, I need you to think carefully about what that would mean if that came to a place near you. How long do you think this city is going to last? I'm sure it's fine for a couple of days. Maybe they've got 3 days of food in the supermarkets, maybe 2 weeks in the households. But this state of emergency quarantine can't persist for more than 2 weeks without serious problems. People come out of their houses, they're starving, they're desperately dehydrated, something. This is a very temporary measure, but the stopgap nature of this is really gut-checking to see dump truck piles of dirt that are meant to block people from leaving an infected area. So that's all I've got for you right now. I've got more updates coming. Well, I'm sure we'll have one tomorrow. This is breaking really fast.
A deadly new virus which has killed 25 people in China could have spread to humans from bat soup, it's been claimed. Bat soup is reported to be an unusual but popular dish, particularly in Wuhan, where the virus is understood to have originated at an open-air fish market. The outbreak of coronavirus began in the city of Wuhan, which has since been put in lockdown after more than 600 people were infected globally. Recently, photos of Wuhan locals eating bat soup have surfaced, causing some to believe that this was the cause of the new coronavirus outbreak. Bats, like many wild animals, could potentially host bacteria and viruses. In addition, the virus was first detected in a food market in Wuhan. Experts published a paper to the China Science Bulletin that suggested bats could host the virus. However, this was all still under speculation. It's not clear yet how the virus was spread to humans, but scientists believes there was an unknown intermediate. This caused some to speculate that the bat soup might have been the missing link. Footage of Wuhan resident eating bat soup went viral on social media earlier this week. In the video, you could see a girl eating a black bat with a pair of chopsticks. As per the article, scientists released a statement released to the South China Morning Post that said the Wuhan coronavirus natural host could be bats, but between bats and humans, there may be an unknown intermediate. The virus outbreak in China had caused the government to order Wuhan to shut down all outbound public transportation in Wuhan. In addition, residents were urged not to leave the city unless absolutely necessary. There have been a total of 555 confirmed cases worldwide since the outbreak began mid-December of last year. However, the World Health Organization had yet to declare the virus as a public health emergency of international concern. This could merit a coordinated global response to containing the virus. What we know so far. 1. Experts have warned the virus could be as deadly as the post-World War I Spanish flu, which killed millions. 2. The virus has spread to Thailand, Taiwan, Japan, Philippines, and the US. 3. UK experts have said they believe the virus could already be in the UK. 4. Latest analysis by snakes than humans. 5. Wuhan in lockdown for a month as public transport and people told to avoid crowd. Scientific backing. A new study published in the China Science Bulletin earlier this week claimed that the new coronavirus shared a strain of virus found in bats. Previous deadly outbreaks of SARS and Ebola were also believed to have originated in the flying mammal. Experts had thought the new virus wasn't capable of causing an epidemic as serious as those outbreaks because its genes were different. But this research appeared to prove otherwise while scientists scrabbled to produce a vaccine, something that could take at least a year. The new study was carried out jointly by the Chinese Academy of Sciences, the People's Liberation Army, and Institute Pasteur of Shanghai. It revealed that the virus has a strong binding affinity to a human protein called ACE2. The researchers said that this binding protein had a high resemblance to that of SARS. They also traced the evolution of the new strain of coronavirus in a government database and found that on the evolutionary tree, it belonged to beta coronavirus. The two shared about 70 to 80% of genes, less than the similarity between pigs and humans. Their findings suggest that the danger posed by the new strain of coronavirus, named 2019 nCoV, may have been underestimated in the research community. In 2003, bats were confirmed to be the source of the SARS virus. The Chinese government urged citizens to stop eating bats and wild animals, but it seems the practice has still been going on until now. It was also reported that each time a seller travels to a remote area to catch bats, they would catch at least 500 bats to make up 2 portions. This is because bats have very little meat in them. Some rich people have even purchased 2,000 bats to eat, which brings light on how easily the coronavirus was able to spread among humans. As of now, China has confirmed 571 cases of the virus and 17 deaths. We really hope scientists and experts will find a way to stop this virus from spreading further. The new coronavirus could have originated from snakes, one of the wild animals being sold in the Wuhan market. This is because researchers found that the protein codes in the virus are similar to that of snakes. According to CNA, snakes often hunt bats in the wild, which could be the reason snakes are now infected with the virus. The new coronavirus from Wuhan, China has been traced and is said to have originated from a market illegally selling wildlife, according to Reuters. The Director General of China's Center for Disease Control and Prevention said that the new virus is almost 70% similar to the SARS virus, which originated from bats. Therefore, scientists have speculated that bats could also be the source of the new coronavirus, which can transmit from animals to humans. This is of course just speculation, as many scientists have different theories on how the coronavirus came about. Experts have suggested that bats could host the virus after photos of Wuhan residents eating bat soup emerged online. Although it is uncertain how the virus has spread between humans and bats, they do, however, believe that there may be an unknown intermediate. This is where bat soup comes into play, as the Chinese delicacy in the Wuhan province is widely consumed by residents. Be safe. Stay vigilant.
If they ever ask about me, tell them I was more than just a great set of boobs.
Nicole.